how things really work out. So as we all understand that it's all start with the online thing, right? What we are actually trying to learn here and why we are here, I'll just brief you about that. So right now, as a user, okay, we are all connected to the internet, okay, and that internet connectivity, we have some kind of a mediums actually which we are using to get connected with online services. One is the laptop, mobile, and on every laptop or a mobile you definitely have some applications like Chrome or Facebook and all. Now when you are really connecting to that application, eventually maybe what you are seeing is just a front end, okay, the front thing about that particular application. But there are a lot of things going on behind that application, right, to support you for all the post, your addition, and all those data which you are really putting. It could be your image, it could be your your photos, your videos, your maybe documents, your emails, everything whatever we are doing right now, it's all online, and there is a front end which we are using actually from your own devices. Now these devices again connected with some kind of a device again or a application, that's a back end thing which we talk about, right? As we understand that to run a application in our own laptop, we need a laptop, right? That's very mandatory information, because laptop is a hardware which has some compute configuration like CPU, memory, your hard disk. So these things, and maybe if you are having a gaming kind of application, definitely you need a GPU, which is a graphical unit. So all these things are really mandatory. You need a networking also to really get connected, you need Wi-Fi to really get connected. So these are some of the hardware parameters which are required if you have a laptop, if you want to really connect to any system. But again, when you're talking about connecting to the system, that system also needs to be having all this information. So it should have application, backend application, it should have server, it should have the hardware, and that hardware is also needs to be configured in a way that it should support sorry, it should support multiple users, right? Same time, if you see in your company also, companies can also actually have the similar kind of a setup. What they generally do is they go with something like a application within the organization, right? Because FB, like Facebook, Instagram, email, and all those things, or maybe Gmail, for example, they are good for personal uses. But when we talk about the professional uses, right? When you talk coming to companies, and when you're working within the companies, definitely you need to connect to the company specific applications. It could be your your specific email address, or your Teams, for example, Microsoft Teams, or there could be some Jira application, there could be some service management application, there could be some project management application, or your HRMS application, for example, right, where you are downloading your pay slips, where you are putting up a leave request, where you are having a calendar. So all those things are also kind of like an application for a company, and those applications generally get uh, saved in your local environment, which we generally call it as a server. And when we talk about server, all these critical applications actually again get saved into something like a server room, right? That's what the concept which we are seeing right now, right? This employee is actually connected with multiple critical applications. Every application is stored on the server, and from server it actually can be like, you can say this is stored inside everything. Whatever we are talking about here is actually inside our sorry, let me change the color here. Okay, so this inside the server room. Now everything whatever we are talking about within the server room, definitely you need a server, you need storage, you need networking devices, because that's all is important. And when companies are really monitoring this one, or both companies are really maintaining this one, they have to really go through multiple things, right? They have to have a kind of like a electricity requirement, they need to have the complete internet requirement, they need to have security requirements. So a bunch of things actually which are really important when a company or organization really works on towards maintaining about these applications, right? So some of the things which we have talked about that day is about how these companies really take out the server cost, the storage cost, the network cost, the space requirement, right? The security requirement. It's not just physical, because security is not only physical, it's also about the virtual security, how you're really connecting to devices. You need firewalls, you need just a lot of network blocking things, security things, whether to ensure that no nobody's really connecting to your device without your permissions. Okay, there are a lot of phishing happening. So multiple things, right? From the security perspective, definitely there are multiple things. Now when we talk about these technologies, that's where I think the cloud computing really comes into the picture. And as you can see, the transformation how we are really doing, connecting from one application from your mobile devices to the internet, then going in getting into the official applications which we are actually using within the server rooms and all. And now how those server rooms, because here when we talk about the advantage of using cloud computing is realized with the organizations or companies, not with the user. Yes, maybe I can say users is also getting impacted, or users are also actually getting, positively impacted. What I mean by positively impacted is like, it is making our life more easy. For example, Gmail, right? We can easily configure Gmail, and we can start seeing the emails or start sending emails using the Gmail account or Hotmail account, right? Or Yahoo account, because these are the services which are now free, and we can use it whatever we want, the way we want. A drive, for example, Google Drive, we can store a lot of data or images. So that's a service which is really providing us. So similarly, when we are talking about cloud computing, the advantage of cloud computing is mostly towards the companies, and that's where companies really hire people are known to cloud computing. They know how to manage these cloud computing resources, and then they can actually save the cost, because eventually it's all about saving cost or saving efforts or securing your environment. These are the three major, you can say, components of cloud computing. Definitely there is a flexibility, there is a scalability kind of like options which we talk, which will be really getting into the more things as we move on. But those are some of the things which are really important, right? Now when we talk about this, that's where I think we will be getting into the cloud, as I mentioned, right? We will be understanding that how cloud is really helping us, and what are some of the things which were really important when we talk about the cloud computing. Okay, so far guys, any questions? I think I discussed this last time. I just gave you a little brief about things, but any questions so far? Yeah, so saving cost, security, okay, that is also important, and the availability of your application. Look, when you talk
Thank
about cloud computing, right, what
you.
happens? There are multiple again. When I talk about the benefits of cloud, is there are actually multiple things here, right? For example, imagine you are having your own company, okay? For companies, maybe let's think about company perspective. See, like we have a company, and now tomorrow my company is a very startup, like a small company running with just 10 members, right? So for 10 members, I have a server actually, which is having my application, and that application is maybe a small application, right? Could be anything which is serving for the payroll system. Now when I'm actually going with this application, definitely for the 10 users, I will not buy a very expensive application in the initial thing, right? And also I will not have a very big kind of like a server requirement here.
Hmm. Yeah.
We will be starting it. Now I'll show you something exciting. So let's jump into the actual Azure portal. So when you will be really creating, or how cloud computing really works out or looks out, let's try to see some kind of like a demo for that particular application, right? For example, I have this, once you log in or once you get the credential, I show you how you can really create the stuff as we move on. But I just want to give you a quick glance about things. Now, when we log into the Azure, Microsoft Azure, we definitely have a lot of services. So if I click on this, more services, you can see there are approximately 150 plus services which are really provided. There are a lot of Azure AIML, and other services which are really important. Now in this one, for example, if I want to create a virtual machine, now as I mentioned, right, virtual machine, it could be something like a new system which is available in your remote location, right? For example, I have a Windows 10, but I want to also create one more Windows 10 which can really be used in the cloud, and I can install things which you really want. For example, say like you are sitting in some other countries, there are some applications actually which do not work in outside India. Okay, they only work in India when you are kind of like India, in India only. For example, Hotstar, or some India specific application, they do not really work. IRCTC, for example. So those things actually which not do not work when you are on outside of things. So in case if you want to really have a dedicated desktop which can be really run in cloud, and whenever you want you can access that particular operating system or a Windows 10 system, you can really do that. How? Let's see. So I'll just go ahead and we'll create a virtual machine here. So you can see this is the option, and this is a portal. Everything is kind of like using the portal itself. You don't have to go to any other places. Okay. So it is asking me some kind of a resource. For example, I'm just selecting the resource. I'm providing a virtual machine name. So I'm just seeing this VRRK, VRIT demo machine VM. And here I can actually select the regions here. So as we see, there are multiple regions actually which are really available within the within the you can say cloud computing. Now why these regions are important? Say like you are having your office or your users mostly in India, so you will be really placing your server, okay, the virtual machine in India because of the latency things. You don't want to keep your application in US and you have all the users coming from India, because the connectivity and latency will be very high. So that's where we will be really selecting here India. And as you can see, we have multiple things actually within India here. When we talk about the specific things, like for example central India, right? Central India or South India or North India, there are multiple regions. And when we talk about regions, definitely they are all mapped with the specific locations. Like South India, you have Hyderabad. When you go with Central India, it's in Mumbai. And then if you go with North India, actually it's in Noida. So this is how they have really separated out, and they are actually keeping this centers onto those things. Don't have enough. Okay, now I can select the which version of actually Windows I can really use, or which version of operating system I would really want to do. Now this is the again advantage of cloud, that it is giving you an option to select which operating system or which system you are really want to get into. Okay, that's what the main important thing is. Now when we talk about sizing, it also provides us the various sizing and all. Okay. So it suppose various sizes actually which you can really do with. Now again, when we go with the cloud computing, the most important thing, as we understand, that it's all subscription based. It's all about your requirement, and then cloud is fulfilling that requirement. But definitely when you are talking about the requirements and cloud is fulfilling that requirement, it's all about the money. It's all about cost. Whether you are really going to go with the particular things about the what kind of a configuration you want, all that really important when you go with this particular configuration. So you can see that based on the requirement, like it's like you go to purchase a mobile and you have a mobile for say like 1 GB, or you want to go with one CPU or two CPU. That's where what you're really going to do. It's like the higher configuration of the mobile, the higher cost is. It's all about that. But here we are talking about the monthly cost, and the more configuration you really go with, the more payment you'll have to really do. And it's all based on the requirement. Say like if you have your application which is only for 10 members, you will definitely go for a lower configuration application. But if you have like hundreds of users or millions of users, then definitely you need very big server also to host and to support that particular application. So that's where you can select what kind of a application or what kind of a system you can really go with. Okay. So I can select from any type of virtual machine or architecture which you can really go with. For example, this is a basic application. If I select this configuration standard B2S, it can go with two CPU, two vCPUs, and 4 GB of RAM. I can just click on this, and then it is asking me also for providing the username and a password. Now, when we talk about username and a password, as we know, whenever you log into your system, you need a username and a password. Even you might have seen that in your laptop also. If you have received office laptop, or you will be receiving an office laptop, for example, they will give you a specific username and a password, and you have to use that username and a password only to log in that particular laptop. Otherwise you'll not be able to really connect to that laptop. So here that's the same thing. So I'm just saying we are IT admin, for example, here. And then password I'm putting up here, a strong password, which you should not tell anyone. Okay. Okay, it's saying it's not confirmed.
So you have mentioned it as, I think, we are TI admin.
Yeah, just a minute. Thanks for that. It should be where IT. We are IT admin. We are IT admin. Yeah, okay. And then I'm kind of like selecting the multiple. I can select the multiple ports. Now, again, when we talk about ports and all those things, they will really get into the picture as we move on. So I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it standards, basics, and all networking, and then IP addressing because to connect to this one, and not monitoring advanced. So you can see there are bunch of options where there are lot of things actually which you can configure when you are creating any virtual machine in the cloud. So let's review and create. Okay, it says basic information is missing. Now what is that basic information? Okay, yes. So because I'm actually going with Windows, I have to click on this one. Okay, so now it is giving me an option, kind of like the option that in case if provision this virtual machine, my cost for this virtual machine will be 3.5183 INR into by hour. So it's giving me an hourly cost. Why hourly cost? Because if I run this virtual machine for 1 hour, my cost of this virtual machine will be just 3 rupees. That's it. That's again a beauty of cloud. So say like if I run this in this context, if I run this for 10 hours, for example, right, my cost will be just 35 rupees, Indian rupees, for running this instance for 10 hours. Now, why I really want this 10 hours, or why should I really run it only for 10 hours? Because there could be some scenarios where you don't want to use your own laptop, where you want to just kind of like use the laptop, the virtual machine which is in the cloud, so you can configure everything in cloud and you can keep your data very secure, because nothing is on your laptop, everything is in the cloud, everything is in the virtual machine which you are really using, and you can use it for your maybe some security perspective from your cloud, your office perspective. I think that is also very important. Maybe in future I'll tell you, companies will actually start doing this one, and they already started that, where they will not give you a physical device. They will ask you to really bring your own laptop, or they'll give you a very small configuration laptop, and they will ask you to really log into this cloud computing instance and start using that for your personal or maybe your official use. That is also going to happen very soon. Okay, let's create this. Okay, bye. Fi, any questions, guys? Nothing. And we can see it also takes like just few minutes to really create that instance, and that instance will be up and running in maybe 5-10 minutes. That's it, not more than that. Come on. Should not take this much time, ideally. Okay, it's there. So I can see, you can see like I have two virtual machines. I can create hundreds of virtual machines in this one. It's again based on how much, but the more you create, definitely the more price you will have to really pay for. Now I can get the basic understanding about the virtual machine, that okay, this is I have a resource group, this is having a Windows operating system, its currently status is creating, it should be created somewhere. It is also giving me the size information, the public IP address, okay, the virtual network and everything, and it also give you some monitoring kind of a requirement. Now why we actually need these monitoring things? This will give us a good understanding about whether my virtual machine is really having highly utilized or underutilized, because that's where it I can understand that whether I should really have a higher configuration of virtual machine or should go with a lower configuration. It's all depend on that, just to save cost again. It's all based on cost and performance, because when we talk about performance, you cannot really think about cost, because if you want to improve the performance, you have to really increase the capacity of your thing. But same time, you have to also ensure that it should go with the right provision thing. That's a word, right provisioning. Now when we talk about right provisioning, it's all about that the compute which you have really selected. For example, I have selected only 2 CPU here and 4 GB RAM. If my application is working very good here and my users are not having any problem, then definitely I'm good with that. Like your existing mobile phone example, if your mobile phone is really working good, you are not facing any major challenges, you think it's good, right? It can take very good photos, it can, the speed is very high, the capacity is also good, so everything is good for you. But it's actually not happening, because every year you will see that your mobile phone is going down due to some or other issues, or some or other applications which are really going up, very heavy applications are coming up. So that's where you will really grow, and you'll start working with that. I'm not sure how many of you really still working with 2 GB of memory. I'm sure most of you must be having at least 8 GB of memory, because all mobiles are upgraded now. So that's the main thing, right? As we move on, definitely the requirement will go. Earlier we were having 2G, we were very happy. Then 4G came, we were kind of like, again, we become very very happy. Now for 5G came, definitely now we'll still kind of like things going on. But maybe at one point of time, if you want to go back to 2G, you cannot really imagine of going back to 2G, because you are now habitual with the 4G. If you don't have a high speed Wi-Fi, your life is kind of like you will feel something missing here. Okay. So, as I understand, we got this virtual machine. I'm just going to connect this. I'm going to show you how you can really connect to this virtual machine, because this is all created somewhere in the cloud, right? So I have this IP address, and then there is also an option, because this is a virtual machine by Windows. So Windows has a protocol or a method actually to connect to that virtual machine, and that call it as a remote desktop protocol, or a remote desktop actually, which you can really see in your system. So it will provide you this RDP file, which generally use to connect. This is again a very small client application which will allow you or help you to connect to your remote virtual machine. I can just click on this, and it will open something like this. You might have seen this earlier in your so far experience, where it is connecting to this remote system which has this private IP address, public IP address, which it is automatically taking the username which I have provided. I just have to provide the password here. Say like, in case if I provide the password, okay, and I'm saying okay here, I'll say yes, and I'm into my virtual machine, right? This is, if you see, this is the look and feel is all about Windows, but this is completely different virtual machine running in some remote location. Okay, that is the main kind of like, and this is a very basic use case of using using your cloud computing devices, right? Now if I want to create, or I want to store similar things in remote location for storage level, for example, I have a lot of data, because in your mobile phone, if I ask you, you might be having somewhere around minimum 10 GB or 20 GB of photos, minimum photos of 10 GBs, or files actually, whatever you have. Now you want to really, you want to configure that those things, or you want to keep those things. You don't want to keep those things on your phone itself, because it will definitely, in some point of time, in case if you sell that phone, or if you forget that phone, or if you kind of like misplace that phone, definitely all your photos and videos will go off. So what do you want? You will definitely save that in some cloud storage. Now you can use the cloud drive, actually it's something which you can use for personal devices. But how about companies? Because when companies are having their remote applications running in cloud, can cloud provide them the support or services which can also help them to store their files and important documents? So the answer is yes. When we talk about creating a server, okay, as I mentioned here, see, like, we can not only create a servers here when we talk about, but definitely your storage things, right? And in the environment, storage is also very important. When we talk about storage, storage and networking, right? All these components are equally important as we compare with the servers. Now when we talk about storage, you can also create a kind of like a very big, highly scalable and highly reliable storage solutions in cloud, where you can store your applications, your application data, you store your files, folders and everything. Okay, now I'll just quickly show you how you can, what all things you can really do it here. Again, similar thing, right? You can connect to your internet, you can install some application, you can use this virtual machine as your own virtual machine. Sounds interesting? Have anyone tried this actually earlier? Anyone tried to create a virtual machine in cloud? Or at least heard about creating the virtual machine in cloud? Anyone?
Yes, heard about it, but never created, sir.
Okay, perfect, no problem. So maybe I want to understand your experience so far, that before joining this class or before things, have you heard about this concept about online services, or how, or have you ever thought about how this overall application gets really connected? Have you ever thought about that one? Anyone? I'm not specifically want one person to really answer, because these are very generic things, right? And now please understand, these will help me to understand your level of knowledge about these technologies. Can you help me with that?
Yeah, definitely we will have some deployment kind of tools, monitoring tools, where we can deploy the
Mm-hmm.
some sort of applications into the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
we are able to connect with them with our specific application. So as far as I concern, this could be
Okay.
the way they deploy the application into the cloud, and the end users will get into the use of it.
Yeah, perfect. But have you ever imagined that how this mechanism really works out from the user to the or cloud? Why? Because you might be thinking, right, that when you thought about joining this particular class or a training, you might be having something in your mind. In this 2 years, 2 days demo or 1 day demo, do you think you are able to really get that information or not? Let me be very honest. Just tell me, if something
Yeah,
is
certainly.
yeah. Okay, perfect. Others, how about others?
Not completely aware of the mechanisms, sir.
Okay, perfect. That's okay. So that's what I understand. I want to understand. So maybe can I know some more about yourself, like what you, which kind of like stream you are coming from, and what kind of a maybe if you have any prior knowledge about IT, if I can understand that one, or if you do not have anything, that's fine. You can say no, I don't have any understanding, or at least are you able to relate what I'm telling? That's important.
Hi, RK.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm from
I'm able
non-IT
to relate.
background.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Tell me. Sorry. Can you please tell me your name and then tell me what yes?
This is Ashok. I am
Yeah,
from
Ashok. Yeah. Tell me.
non-IT background, and also just now I'm trying to step into the IT. So
Perfect. Okay.
uh,
Okay. So, what's your expectation from the IT thing? What do you think IT will? I know job is one of the thing. I completely get that. But
yeah,
what could be the another aspect?
yeah. I don't know about that, but
Okay.
while I'm working in non-IT, but I can't expect more than 30K or 35K. So I
Okay.
am changing my job.
Okay. What is your background? Educational background?
Uh, Actually, I took a break from 2019, so I went to
Mm-hmm.
UK and I studied my MS. Now I'm
Okay.
looking
You
for
are in
IT.
UK right
Yeah.
now?
No, no, no. Right now
Okay.
I'm in India. Again, I will go back to UK.
Okay. Perfect. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think yeah, that's nice. Yeah. So I think I hope then this training at least giving you some kind of understanding about what is IT or cloud computing.
Yeah. Actually, before this, I started watching the videos in YouTube and Udemy. So
Mm-hmm.
I am getting, I am understanding little bit. So
Perfect.
if I practice well, it may work out.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think
Yeah,
that's a very important thing. That's a very important thing because practicing is really important.
yeah.
And you, the more you
Up to
practice,
now,
the more you
I
understand.
saw only the videos, right? I was watching
Okay,
only the videos. Yeah, I
okay.
didn't practice and I didn't create any Azure account and all.
No problem. Okay, so I
Yeah,
think that's important, right? I understand that you might
yeah,
have actually came from, videos and all those things. Now the
yeah.
basic difference with videos and, watching me to create and help is that whenever I will
Yeah.
be teaching you, I will explain you everything in detail. First of all, that's important.
Okay.
Second thing is I will handhold you for everything whatever you are really doing. So I
Okay.
need your
Okay.
support from that one. So
Yeah.
what
Sure. Sure.
when I'm
Okay.
talking about your support is that you have to really do it. Don't try to do it with me. At least that's fine.
Okay.
I'm not expecting you to really do. If you can follow along with me, nothing like it. Because I will be explaining you everything, so you can really follow along with me. So that's not a problem. But in case if you
Okay.
don't want to follow along with me during the class, you can at least try that after the class. That's very
Okay.
important.
Okay. Sure.
Don't
Sure.
keep it
Sure.
for, say, like, yeah, please don't keep it for like I will be getting teach for all 5 days, and then at the Saturday or
Yeah.
Sunday
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will
Got
be
it.
having things I
Yeah.
will then
And,
practice.
yeah.
Things will not work out, guys. I believe
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yes, I
know.
think
Yeah.
what it is important is you along for example, we start with Monday. You do, maybe in the morning or evening we are starting. So next day or that day, if whenever you get a time, and 15-20 minutes, not more than that. I'm not asking for like, and but again, if you want to really make a career, you have to spend that much time. Otherwise, forget about making this career. Forget about, by this like learning 30 days of things and you will be able to achieve everything. That's not going to happen. You have to really keep practicing and more practice. Don't worry, I'll be there with you for solving all your problem solving, because the more challenges you, the more problems you face, the more knowledge you will get. And that will only come from when you start practicing things. Okay, that's something which you'll have to really start with. Now the second thing is again about, the the kind of like implementation about, sorry, yeah. So when we run with that one at the end of the week, right, maybe Saturday and Sunday, try to consolidate everything whatever we learn in the last 5 days, and then we will be kind of like getting done from the, Monday like, the Saturday and Sunday itself. So that is also very important. So follow that particular piece. Don't just, kind of like think about, okay, I'll be doing this practice on that day in that day, because then you will not ask me questions first of all. Then I'll keep on talking, I'll finish that chapter, and you will not understand anything. Okay, and
Yeah.
I will not
Yeah.
go back
Yeah.
again. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I know.
don't do that.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
expect next day you come, you ask me questions so I can clarify that one. You go try again, ask me questions, clarify, then we will move on. I don't
Yeah.
want to get into that. Yeah.
Actually, I saw some of your classes, like recorded classes, because my wife took the training from you. She took the
Okay.
coachings from the
Hmm.
same institute. So again, I
Okay.
joined in this.
Perfect. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so let's go ahead now. When we talk about this thing, right, again, any questions so far? Anything is you want to know more about this particular thing, or how should we really talk it, or can I go with the normal thing what we have? Because I want to give you some sense before really getting into actual things and starting from everything. Because look, initially few days will be more about the theoretical things, because you need to really understand the concept, and then I can show you the practicals and everything. That is important. Practical is, uh, 70-80% will be all practicals. Whatever we are going to do every day, we are going to have a live sessions every day, we are going to have some or other trainings things. Maybe 10-15 minutes is the theoretical, but everything remaining will be practicals. And then in that practical also, I want to explain you everything that is important, because, uh, as I mentioned, right, everything whatever I'm going to teach you will help you to crack your interview or to get a job. I'm not going to teach you anything which is just for a theoretical purpose, and you will not really get that in your real world experience. No, that is not going to happen. I'm going to explain you everything whatever is companies are really using. There are a lot of nonsense things which are there in the cloud, which people talk, people discuss, and people teach you. but they never really come into your your overall experience so far. Like same thing with academics. I don't want to get into like academics which you may not really face any time in your career, like biology or some kind of a things which may not really help you to get a job, because you are not, if you want to go into the doctors, then only biology and other things will really help you. Otherwise, if you are going into the IT thing, biology will really not important, but still we learn that in 10th and 12th maybe, or throughout our things. So sometimes I want to really avoid that, so you can focus on major things rather than going into those things. Perfect. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, right, there are multiple services in the cloud. The first service, as we have seen, is 1 minute, right? The first service or is a virtual machine. 1 minute. Okay. Then we also have actually surrounding components along with this one, because everything, if you see, right, this actually comes around this thing. So all the technologies, all the tools, all the things which we are going to learn here, they will all be placed across this virtual machine, one single component. Now what are those components? So we will be also seeing how the networking really works into this virtual machine. So, sometimes these things really don't work out. Network, right? This is important, that you will be learning about how the network really supported for this virtual machine. That is important. Now when you go with this virtual machine, then you have something like a storage, where you can store multiple kind of like a data. For example, when I talk about storages, there are multiple types of storage or data actually which we really have. Now why we really want a storage? To store our data. And when you talk about data, data has three classifications. Anyone, can anyone try out what kind of a classifications we have for data? Have you heard about classification of the data?
Kind
Anyone?
of structured, semi-structured, unstructured.
Perfect. Exactly. So it's like a semi-structured, structured. Okay, we will always start with structured. Okay, unstructured, and then semi-structured. Sorry, semi-structured and unstructured. Okay, and unstructured. Now, what is, when we talk about unstructured and semi-structured, it's same thing like your clothes, for example, or books, for example, right? So when you have a books, there might be a possibility that some books are there, some books are here, some books you don't know what is actually there, which kind of categories they are coming from. They are fiction, they are novels, or something like that. So you say like you have hundreds of books, and now you want to really place those books into different categories. The first category will always be a unstructured category, because you don't know where that book is, what kind of a book is that really belongs to which particular category. You don't have that one. What you do, you start with something like a semi structure first. You place them. Okay, I will just put up fictions here, I will put up non-fictionals here, or I will put up only these particular things here. But when you are really want to make it very structured, what are you going to do? You will actually place them based on the author, based on maybe a genre, based on some other things, right? It's all about how you really place it. Very important. So when you have a data, you also have to really work on that data towards these three technologies, or three towards these categories actually when we talk about. So unstructured data, what kind of unstructured data? The unstructured data could be something like your images, your videos, whatever photos you are taking. Now if you imagine, you can imagine, right, you are taking hundreds of photos in your gallery. If you go, you might be having like maybe more than 1000 images. But if I ask you that, can you give me the image actually which you took in your last holiday when you were actually in Kashmir, for example, okay, or in Manali, or in say like Cochin or Kerala, somewhere else? Is it possible for you to actually categorize that one? There might be some option you can actually categorize, but I'm 100% sure you'll not be able to really do that. You have to really watch each and every thing, and maybe in that one period, if you go back saying that okay, from this date to this date, whatever I took, maybe actually this is from that particular trip which I have taken. So if you don't categorize that, if you want to categorize that, definitely you have to create a proper folder, you have to name that particular thing so you can understand it easily. Okay, otherwise you cannot really understand. So that's a unstructured data. That's a data which is actually unstructured, which is not having any structure, because you don't want to maybe you can keep a folder, but how long you can start keeping the folders, right? You will get bored. Not every time you can really create a folder for your images and videos, and you still want to really map it. So for that also you can really store that in some storage, like a Google Drive, for example. You're just dumping everything there, and whenever you want, you can just take out only those photos which you really care. Now, when you talk about unstructured, semi-structure is again making that in a very manner, but again having some or other information associated with that particular photo. As I mentioned, right, either you can create a folder, or you can name that particular thing, or you can refer that to some other table. Okay, that's a unstructured or a semi-structured data, for example. And then when you talk about structured data, it's all about database. So you are maintaining a proper database, a table where you are making, for example, you are creating an Excel sheet, and then in the Excel sheet you are saying, okay, this is the file name, this is the date, this is the trip, and this is where I actually went. So I know that all these things, and I'm actually making it very structured. So tomorrow, in case if someone asks me, hey, can you provide me your photos from your Kerala holiday? So you go to this table, you filter out Kerala holiday, and you have all the file names, photo names or image names, and you are saying, okay, from this one image 112 to image 230, it's all these images actually belongs to my trip from Kerala. So that's a structured data. But for that structured data, you need to make a proper table and formatting that in a tabular format, and that's where we generally call it as a database. Okay, so there are three types of databases we generally talking about here, or a data. And when we talk about database is like what? Data. It's all about data, right? And any company, the data is very important. The biggest asset for any company is data. So when we talk about data, we will be talking about databases here, or rather I will call it as a relational databases, right? You have a relational database, you have non-relational database, okay, or you can say semi-structured when we talk about. So this is all SQL thing, SQL, structured query language, which actually generally called as SQLDB. You might have heard about SQLDB, SQL Server, okay, MySQL Server, MS SQL Server, Oracle Server. These are all type of relational databases. Now there is something like a non-relational database, which also gets called as NoSQL, okay, which also get called as MongoDBs. For example, you might have heard about MongoDB. There are multiple actually applications which are there, which can be used as MongoDB or NoSQL database and all. So these are also something which is very important to understand. And this third thing is just your blob storage. Now blob storage, when we talk about blob is like you know big large, you can say binary objects. A very binary objects could be anything. As I mentioned, right, binary object is something like your image, your document, your photos, your everything, whatever you have. So you are dumping that. You want a place where you can dump everything, and maybe then you can filter out things which you really want. For example, you have a go down. In that go down, you might have rice, you might have everything, like all the grocery items and everything. It's like a kirana shop, for example, right? In kirana shop you have everything. But if you want to really categorize that, what you do, you keep things separate, so easily you can find out saying that okay, I want sugar, I can take it from this particular place. I want wheat, I can take it from this one. I want some spices, I can take it from this one. So that's how you can really place it. So people will always have three type of data, and that data is something which you will be really doing that. And this is very important when we talk about the virtual machine, because virtual machines will actually work on these three things. They will either work on structured data, semi structured data, or unstructured data. Okay, they also really required a kind of like a temporary or a persistent storage. Okay, when we talk about temporary and persistent storage. and persistent storage. Now, can you tell me what is temporary and persistent storage? What could be the difference? What is persistent and what is temporary? Any guesses? Hello, guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, so anyone can guess that what is the temporary or a persistent storage when I talk about anything?
Temporary for a, as the
And
name suggests, it is for a short time. Persistence, like which is continuously
perfect,
used,
yes,
which has to be used on a daily basis. What I understand.
yes, right, exactly. So if I ask you in the your context, right? Uh, for example, when we talk about a laptop, okay, take example of laptop. Now, when you are using a laptop, you have two types of storages here. One is a random access memory, right? A RAM, which is generally called, and then you have a hard drive. Now, what is the temporary storage and what is the persistent storage? Can anyone guess? You have two
RAM is
storages. One
temporary.
is a RAM.
Yeah,
RAM is also your storage. Exactly.
yeah.
RAM is
RAM is
temporary and hard disk
temporary.
is a permanent or a persistent storage you can call it as. Correct. Exactly. So when we talk about virtual machine, right? Virtual machine is required both the storages because whatever data it want to really keep, it will keep it always in the persistent storage because whenever you restart your virtual machine or sorry your laptop, this temporary storage data will go automatically get deleted because this is just for processing your application information. So to process that information and to make it very fast, that processing fast, it requires to really keep that in the temporary storage. Okay, and persistent storage is something which you will be really keeping as a hard drive and storage things, right? And when you talk about the temporary storage, to process this data, okay, you need a processor, correct? Or a CPU, you can call it as processor. Maybe I'll just say processor. Okay, so here the cloud computing or computing kind of really works out. So this two things which is temporary or I will say RAM now. Okay, and then here we have a STD. Okay, now this VM requires two things, RAM and processor, and also it requires the hard drive, whatever we are talking about. Now, apart from that, this networking is there definitely, as we understand that it also requires a networking. It's also required storage. It's also required the HDD and hard drive and everything. It also needs to be authenticated. Okay, from the security perspective, it also required security. Also required the security, and then it it's also required a monitoring, right? Because I want to make sure that my virtual machine is very secure. When I'm connecting to this one, it should be securely connected. It is already also getting monitored continuously. Now, why I would really need monitoring? Because I want to ensure that my virtual machine is always kind of like getting monitored, and I know that what is happening with my virtual machine. Is it overly provision, under provision? Is it require some kind of a capacity enhancements, or is there any events actually which are really going on? So that is continuously monitoring is very important onto this one. Okay, and on top of this everything whatever we are talking about, I want to also use or deploy some applications on top of this one. So why I'm actually using this virtual machine? Because I want my application to be running on this virtual machine. Okay, that's why I need all this supporting stuff. This is all my supporting actors. These are all my supporting actors, right? Now why these supporting actors, and this is my main, for example, hero. I am creating a movie, so these all supporting actors can actually support this actor, so this can make a very good movie. And this movie is something my audience or my user can really watch, and they can enjoy, they can get entertained, or they can get fulfilled with all the information what I have. Okay, and this is my user. So user is connecting to the virtual machine. okay, or to the application. Application is hosted on virtual machine. Virtual machine required all the infrastructure. Everything when we talk about this one, till DevOps or till cloud computing, everything was actually getting into the manual way. Now everything is automated, and that's what we're going to learn in DevOps, that how you can really automate this entire process. So far with me, guys. Any questions before we wrap up?
Yes, sir, with you.
Yeah, tell me. Hello, I can't hear you. Hello, Bharat, RT, Anurag, Ashok, Venkat, Rishi, Tulsi,
Yeah,
Gopinath,
okay. I can
Mohammed.
observe some latency while you are explaining the things. So will it be giving any confusion in future classes from when actual classes are going to start?
No, I think actually what happened, today I came out, and that's could be the reason. Actually, maybe I think the issue is, but I'll make sure that these things will not happen in the classes.
Yeah, actually, when we see some kind of latency, when we are trying to deploy or create some kind of virtual machines using going through the some options. So if we miss anything, so that might be an issue for us to um,
No, no,
do
don't worry
some
about
sort of.
that one. First of all,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you the notes also. I'm working on that actually. So whatever I'm going to teach you, first of all, you will be having the recorded videos. That's one thing. Second thing is you will also see the notes for that particular thing, whatever I'm going to explain. So that's also important. So you will be having that.
Yeah. And from when we are going to see the actual classes, sir?
Um, okay. So I again, what is your expectation from the actual class? If you can just elaborate more on that.
Uh, no, actually, as per the curriculum which you have provided, so either
Okay.
from the theoretical basis or practical scenario.
Yeah,
So
so
when we are going
if you
to,
see, right? Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think Ravi sir will provide you some more updates on that one, from when we can really start that one. But as I mentioned, right, whatever I told you so far in this day today also, or maybe in last demo, if I think I remember you were there, right, in the last demo also. So this was just a
yeah,
demo to give you a very high level understanding about things, right? Now I will go into much details. So first few classes, again, as I mentioned, right, first one or two classes will be again a very theoretical things, just to explain you the concept. Because if I directly jump into the virtual machine like the way I did today, I don't generally do that, because I want you to get the complete understanding about any technology before jumping into the the console and showing you how really the virtual machine really works out. I'm sure it will not help you. Okay, the basics are very important, and if you don't understand the basics, that's where something which will not happen. But yes, the moment we start, I'll start you with again some of the basics regarding the, for example, I've showed you the regions here, right? I'm not sure how many of you really understood the region concept, or I'm not sure how many of you really understood the type of actually which I have selected for two CPU, one CPU. I'm not sure how many of you really got that one. So I want to give you that understanding, because when you are creating a virtual machine, I want you to understand that what region you should really select, what type of instance you should really select, which operating system you should be really selecting. It's all depend on that. Unless you understand that, creating just that thing is really not going to work. And directly doing things is not important. Sometimes I understand that we are very fascinated about driving a car, for example, right? But if you don't know anything about driving, or you haven't really gone through the basics, you will end up crashing your car. So I don't want you to really crash the car before really trying anything. So that's important.
yeah, got it.
But don't worry, it's not like we will not get only theoretical things and everything. We will definitely
No,
get
no, no.
into a
Actually,
car,
I'm just
and then
my doubt.
no, 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 that's okay. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, I think that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked it, and then I'll Ravi sir will update you with the next steps, and we'll start from there.
So, okay, one
Thank you very much,
final
guys.
question.
Sure, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Are we able to attend the interviews and put our resumes on Naukri portal right after the completion of this training? Would it be
Absolutely
possible for us?
yes.
Yeah, if we
Absolutely yes.
do practice on day-to-day basis, what you are going to
Yes.
teach.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely
Thank
yes.
you.
So I will tell you, if you follow me, and if you do all the practice along with the projects and everything, you will be able to really crack the interview, at least for the DevOps things, from as a fresher thing, right? I'm expecting as a fresher, definitely not as an experienced one, but whatever the requirements are for the freshers, you will definitely get it from this particular course.
Uh, then what about if we are going for at least 3 to 4 years of experience, if we put on our resumes? I mean,
Mm,
by
I
changing
don't
our
think. Look again, the technologies again, it's again depends on, right? With 30 days or maybe 2 months of training, you cannot show 3 years of experience. That's not possible. I'll be very honest with that one. But yes, you can explain that you have worked for at least 1 or 2 years, because 3 years working is a very big long term, right? A person having a 3 years experience, companies will definitely will have a lot of expectation from you. They will expect you to really start from day one with all the understanding and everything, which might be little difficult. And I'm not saying it's difficult for everyone. Maybe you might pick up very fast, and you are able to showcase, in case if you are already connected with IT companies, if you already know about the technologies and everything, yes, I think you should be able to do it. But 3 4 years is quite tough if you are not having any knowledge about.
yeah. Okay.
Anyone else? I say a lot of people actually, but haven't seen much of the interaction from them. Okay, guys, I think if you haven't have any kind of like questions, we will close it for today here, and we'll talk to you soon.